Hello and welcome to Vax-Nation podcast by the PSVI. I'm your host, Delia Harris. On Vax-Nation podcast, we tackle all things vaccines and vaccination and provide information so the private sector workforce can get vaccinated at the earliest opportunity they get. Today, we will be discussing the vaccine types available in Jamaica: AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, and Pfizer BioNTech. And of course, we get only facts from our guest, Dr. Peter Figueroa, Professor of Public Health, Epidemiology, and HIV/AIDS at the University of the West Indies, Mona, Jamaica. The episode will help us gain a bit of knowledge on why the J&J is a one-shot vaccine. Who are these vaccine manufacturers anyway? And importantly, the efficacy of the vaccines. Welcome, Dr. Figueroa.
Hi, Delia. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, on August 23 of this year, Jamaica received its first shipment of 115,200 doses of the Johnson & Johnson Janssen coronavirus COVID-19 vaccines, and this came through the African Medical Supplies platform. Dr. Figueroa, there are people who have expressed concerns about this one and even expressed that the fact that it's a single dose means that they put too much in it. Help us understand, Doc, how is this single shot vaccine just as safe as the ones that are two-dose vaccines?
Well, the JNJ vaccine is a safe and effective vaccine. It's a good vaccine. It is authorized. It has emergency use listing. It's accepted by the World Health Organization and by the FDA in the US. So this is a good vaccine. It is only one dose currently because the research that they did shows that one dose gives you effective protection, especially against severe COVID. Even if this COVID is due to Delta variant, it protects you from severe COVID, and it keeps you out of hospital and avoids death. So this is a good vaccine. Now, we need to remember, some vaccines, what they do is you get one injection, that's called a prime, and then the second is like a boost. So in other words, the first one prepares the immune system, and the second one makes sure that you're fully protected. With the J&J, it seems as if just one dose gives you a good response, but they are looking at whether perhaps in the future it may suit them to give two doses. So the verdict is still out on that. But you don't need to worry about how much dose is in the actual vaccine. It's not too much. They've calibrated it carefully to ensure effectiveness and safety.
Yeah. You know, although the J&J promises one shot, the reports on the Johnson & Johnson vaccine show extremely high efficacy in preventing hospitalizations and deaths due to COVID-19 28 days after vaccination, and also results from a phase 3 trial of the AstraZeneca vaccine demonstrated vaccine efficacy of 76%, with confidence increase from 59% to 86% after first dose. That's awesome. And with protection maintained to the second dose. With an interdose interval of 12 weeks or more, vaccine efficacy increased to 82%, with confidence increase from 63% to 92%. That's a lot of figures and facts. Now, can you break it down for us and explain to us what it means?
Probably too many figures.
Yeah.
Because these are the figures that you're reading from the clinical trials, which are very important because these are the data that the regulatory authorities, the independent regulatory authorities, have to examine closely to determine whether the vaccine is effective and whether it is safe. However, these trials are done under different conditions. The AstraZeneca trial was done with, some of their trial was done with health providers, and health providers are more at risk than the general population. So it's not surprising that their efficacy in their trial is a bit below what the Pfizer trials got, which didn't have as many health providers in it. So these figures are good, but they're a guide. You also have to see in real life, when you roll out the vaccine, how the vaccines perform. And of course, you have to look out for any rare adverse events that you didn't pick up in the trials. So when they rolled out the vaccine in the US and particularly in the UK, they found that the AstraZeneca performed in real life conditions similar to the Pfizer vaccine. Both were highly effective vaccines. And I saw some recent some results from Brazil, which showed that the AstraZeneca performed very well in the real life conditions in Brazil. So we don't need to worry about the detailed figures. What is important is all these authorized vaccines are highly effective against COVID, especially against severe COVID. So it is worth taking it to protect yourself.
Yeah, I think information is key. And one of the things maybe many of us don't know is information about the companies that have made the vaccines available in Jamaica. All of them have been in the vaccine business before, correct?
Yes, they have been, but they've been, they are pharmaceutical companies that produced a lot of different medications, many of which we use for all kinds of conditions. Mm-hmm. And it suits them to maintain high quality, because if they don't maintain high quality, it's going to fly up in their face.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's see if we can break them. AstraZeneca, I know they created the influenza vaccine.
Yes, they did. And the Johnson & Johnson also has done vaccines. Mm-hmm. And it's a very complex process to produce a vaccine. And it is under very close regulatory scrutiny. So people will recall that when Johnson & Johnson was producing their vaccine, the regulatory authorities in the US actually paused the trial and said, you guys have to do better than you're doing. And in the UK, when the AstraZeneca was being reviewed, they paused it also for a different reason and said, hey, something has happened here. Let us look at it very closely. They paused it for a month, and then they said, okay, it's fine, you can proceed. So the regulatory authorities oversee them very, very, very closely.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, Doc, is at the end of the day, all the vaccines available in Jamaica are safe and they're effective in preventing severe illness. Isn't that what we're saying? That's
right. So we tell people, whichever one you can get, the quickest one you can get, take that one.
Take that one. All right, Doc, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Before you go, anything else you want to share with our viewers as it relates to vaccine and vaccine hesitancy?
Okay, well, it's only natural that some people are a little more cautious about a new vaccine. All Jamaicans are familiar with the vaccines that prevent the childhood illnesses. In fact, the Caribbean has led the world in controlling and eliminating those many diseases, infectious diseases that are preventable by vaccination. We don't have measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, tetanus, diphtheria, So we've done remarkably well in transforming the lives of our children. So the same technology on the whole, with some sophisticated developments, is being used in relation to the COVID vaccines. They are safe and effective, especially against severe COVID disease. Now, we need to remember that even when you're fully vaccinated, some people, a minority, could get infected still. But usually they do not get severe disease, they get a mild disease if they get infected. But that infection could transmit to someone else, a family member, a friend, a co-worker, a neighbor, although the period of infectivity is very short if you're vaccinated, maybe only 3 days. Whereas if you get infected and you're not vaccinated, not only are you at risk of getting severe disease, but the period that you're infected may last 10 to 14 days. So that there's a longer period in which you can pass on the infection. But what it does mean is, one, it's better to get vaccinated so you can protect yourself, but also, even when vaccinated, you still need to wear a mask, maintain physical distancing, avoid crowds, especially indoors, and keep hand hygiene, wash your hands regularly. So these are the basics that we have to keep in place for the foreseeable future until we defeat the COVID.
Thank you very much, Doc, for spending time with us and for sharing those facts, because facts matter when we talk about vaccines and vaccinations. You heard it, guys. All the vaccines available in Jamaica are safe and effective in preventing severe illness from COVID-19. And to protect yourself and your family, co-workers and friends, take the vaccine the first chance you get. Remember, every day vaccines are being used to save lives in Jamaica. Vaccines work with the vaccine. This is the Vax-Nation podcast, brought to you by the Private Sector Vaccine Initiative, the PSVI. The PSVI is a mechanism set up to help support the implementation of the National Vaccination Plan of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. This is where we leave you this week on Vax-Nation Podcast. Vax-Nation Podcast, we tackle all things vaccine and vaccination and provide information so that the private sector workforce can get vaccinated at the earliest opportunity they get. For more Vax facts and for resources to share with your work teams, visit psvija.com. Here's a reminder to make sure you only follow the guidance from trusted, credible sources of information about the virus and the vaccines, such as the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Talk with your healthcare providers and plan to take the vaccine at the very first opportunity that you get. Until next time, I'm Dela Harris. I leave you with a reminder from Professor Figueroa.
It's only natural that some people are a little more cautious about a new vaccine. All Jamaicans are familiar with the vaccines that prevent the childhood illnesses. In fact, the Caribbean has led the world in controlling and eliminating those many diseases, infectious diseases that are preventable by vaccination. We don't have measles, mumps, rubella, whooping cough, tetanus, diphtheria, So we've done remarkably well in transforming the lives of our children. So the same technology on the whole, with some sophisticated developments, is being used in relation to the COVID vaccines. They are safe and effective, especially against severe COVID disease.